Yeah, a confidant is any character in the story that the main character or the bad guy can trust, right? So usually in a story, the protagonist has like a best friend, right? Or a family member that they can confide in and tell everything to, right? And then an antagonist, right? You also know antagonists have someone by their side too, right? They're almost like their cheerleader. Yeah, you can take over the world. I'm gonna help you, right? So every protagonist and an antagonist, yeah, sort of like a helper, right? Somebody that you can trust to help you do things for you. Confidants are actually quite important in stories too, okay? They're almost like the second main character, okay? They're like the main character's best friend or somebody they can trust, so therefore they're pretty important to the story, right? So I was actually just going to ask for an example, but Leanna just got it, right? Like Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, right? That would be an example of a protagonist and his confidant, okay? So that pretty much covers every sort of character archetype, okay? We were just missing the foils and the confidants, but now we have it all, right? So over here, I have an example for you guys. Let me full screen this and probably zoom in a bit. All right. So for this story, we have the story called The Lost Melody, okay? And this would be an example of how you would actually break down all the characters you want in your story, okay? So you start with your protagonist because that's your main character, okay? So in this case, our protagonist is Melody, right? A talented young woman who has lost her unique melody and seeks to recover it. So that just means she used to be able to sing well, and now she can't, okay? So she's ambitious. So right here, we're using something we call character traits, okay? So ambitious, passionate about music, and believes that without her melody, she's missing a part of her soul. All right, pretty deep. And now there's a description of her, okay? So you need to not only talk about who they are inside, you got to talk about outside too. So her description is a tall, with long flowing brown hair, eyes that shimmer like twilight, I mean she has like bright eyes, and a tattoo of a musical note behind her ear. That's a little weird. Putting a tattoo here, no one can really see it, but it's fine. Okay, so next we have our antagonist, okay, the bad guy. So can you guys see from there?
Yeah.
Okay, so good. Now I'm gonna get you guys to take turns reading the next few characters, okay? So Leanna, could you begin by reading the antagonist here?
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Harmon, the ruler of Sonata. He believes in a strict musical order and suppresses any form of music rebellion. Harmon secretly collects melodies from the citizens, weakening them and increasing his own power. Description: an older man, balding a crown, shaped like a treble clef. His robes always seem to be moving, like they are made out of liquid music notes.
Okay, good. So now we have Harmon, okay? Sonata. I'm assuming Sonata is the town, right? And he likes to make sure everybody follows a strict code of conduct, okay? So they follow the rules. You don't get to freely do your music. You have to do what I say, right? So does anybody know the word for somebody like that? It's similar to a king, but it's not like a bad king. Okay, ruler, king, they're close. Okay, so the real word would be tyrant. Have you guys ever heard of the word tyrant? Okay, so back in the day, or tyrants. Okay, so it's a pretty short word. So a tyrant, modern day, so nowadays, what we would call tyrants would be dictators. Okay, so if you guys know World War II, you probably know Hitler. Okay, Hitler was an example of a dictator, and if we take him back 200 years ago, people would have called him a tyrant. Okay, just everything that person says are the rules. Okay, and if you don't follow them, you're dead. Right, that would be a tyrant. Okay, tyrants, we're all of Asian descent, so we all probably have something to do with Genghis Khan. If you guys know who Genghis Khan is, he was from Mongolia, right? He was a tyrant. So, and now that's who he is. So you can tell he's just a mean person. Okay, he wants everyone to follow his rules. Now his description is he's an older man, balding. So that means he's not bald. He has like a few hairs on his head, but he's almost completely shiny on the head. Okay. And he has a crown shaped like a treble clef, right? Any music people here? You guys understand what a treble clef is? Oh, you guys don't know what a treble clef? So treble clef is, so this is a treble clef, all right?
Yeah, I know.
So our story says the character himself, Harmon, has crown that looks like a treble clef. So he probably looks pretty ridiculous, by normal standards, right? Okay. So we have two characters here, okay? We actually have a boy and a girl. So we have Cord and we have Lyra, right? Cord is sort of the cliche, right? The most common kind of love interest you'll see in stories, okay? Somebody that has been longtime friends since they were kids with the main character, okay? And Lyra is an example of another cliche, okay? So throughout the story, throughout any sort of movie or book, the main character will meet someone new, right? Somebody that catches their eye, right? And they're going to be a love interest too, most of the time, okay? So we have the old and the new. Those are the two most common cliches for love interests, right? And, they look very cliche too, right? Cord has, athletic build, so he's got muscles, right? He's got jet black hair, deep blue eyes that carry a hint of mischief. Basically, he just looks like a very normal guy with blue eyes, okay? And then Lyra has short pixie cut red hair, so she's different. She looks, strange. She has red hair. How many people do we know that actually have red hair, right? Probably not many. Yeah. Red hair, green eyes, right? So she's got red and green. She kind of looks like Christmas, right? And she has a scar running down her left cheek. So, right here, she's got a big scar, right? So for the love interest, that is as much as they tell you for now, right? Okay, Liam, could you read the foil character for us? Okay, good. So the foil character here, they can't say much about the foil character just yet, right? Because the foil character has to do something that interrupts the main character's progression or the antagonist's progression, right? So what they really can do right now when you're making the characters is kind of just describe their personalities and what they look like. That's as far as you can go for foil characters, right? But notice how for Melody and Harmon, you immediately know they're gonna have conflict, okay? Because Melody seeks freedom, she wants beautiful melodies to be sang everywhere, and then Harmon just wants everybody to follow his rules, okay? So directly, there's gonna be something wrong there. But as you saw with Cord, Lyra, and Beat, right? There's not much going on, for him, right? He's just her brother, right? And he's kind of like a free spirit. But, if you were to write the story, you would find a way to make him do something that would interrupt Melody. Okay. Oops. Okay. So static characters. So Kaden, please read the static characters for us. Okay, good. So for Treble, okay, these two, these two characters for static characters are some of the most, if not the most, cliches in stories. Okay. So we always refer back to stories and TV shows that we already know. Okay. What are the most static characters? People in the stores, right? Probably one store that they always go to. Maybe it's like a bubble tea store, right? And in more mature shows, the bar, okay? There's always somebody behind the bar. He's always wearing like a vest and a white dress shirt with a tie. He has a glass in his hand and he has a white cloth and he's always cleaning the glasses, right? So these are static characters you can always go back to, right? And no matter what, these characters pretty much never change. Okay, Trouble, he's the owner of the largest music store. He's always going to be in the store, right? He's described as, so we had the word plump. Does anybody guess what the word plump means? The word plum is in here, okay? So he's plump like a plum, right? So he's plump. Means he's just pretty fat, okay? And he's always in a suit with musical notes and a monocle. Everybody know what a monocle is? Monocle is half of, so if we took Caden's glasses and we broke half of it and he just wore one, that would be a monocle. Oh. Yeah. Okay. And for bass, right, or bass, it should be bass, right, because it's musical, right? It's a music theme, right? I know, there's a fish bass and then there's bass in music, right? So, which is weird because bass is spelled with an E usually. So bass has a stocky build. Okay. Anybody know what a stocky build is? Stocky means he's very stiff, right? So that means he probably has, a lot of muscle. Okay. People with a lot of muscle, they can't move, they're not flexible, right? They can't move too much. So he's very stocky. So he's just the big stocky guy behind the bar cleaning his glasses, right? And they also say he has a deep voice that resonates. So he probably sounds even deep. I can't even go that deep, but he probably sounds like that. Okay. And what resonates means that people really like to talk to him, okay, because he has a nice sounding voice. Which means if you were to write the story, what's her name? Melody. Melody will probably talk to him a lot. That's what they're getting at with this, okay? All right, so I will read out the joke character and the plot summary for you guys. So if you wanted to summarize what Fiddle is, let's go with Deanna. How would you describe Fiddle in one sentence? Just okay. So we can shorten that even further by saying Fiddle is a goofball who's tall, who always likes to sing songs with puns at the wrong times, right? So his shtick, instead of tripping over a banana peel, every time something serious happens, he comes there and plays a stupid song and sings it for them, right? And it's never clever, okay? Everybody's probably always mad at him, but us as the readers and the viewers, we're probably gonna laugh a bit. We're like, it's Fiddle again, okay? So in this case, we have Fiddle, a joke character. Why? Because this story is not that serious, okay? It's just about music, right? It's a story about music. It's not about somebody trying to get revenge for somebody, killing their whole family, right? This is a very simple and casual tone for a story, okay? So now you can kind of put this all together because you don't have everything, okay? You just have the characters, but you can kind of put it all together. So honestly, this last sentence would have been enough to kind of put all the characters together, right? So Beat serves as a reminder to Melody of her roots. So you can kind of guess what he does throughout the story, right? So think back to Beat. He's her younger brother, and all he does is love music, right? But Melody has kind of lost her love for music. Okay, so can anybody give me an example of what Beat would do, like throughout the story, to kind of be a foil character? A very cliche, so something that happens a lot. Okay, you're on the right track. So what Beat would do, and you guys can think about this too, there's always, not always, but most of the time there's a character in the story that doesn't want the main character to do something dangerous, right? It's always, no, stay here, be with me, right? You might die, okay?
Oh, that.
That would be a foil character, okay? He's not doing it on purpose. He because he cares about his older sister, right? He loves her. He wants her to stay alive. Okay, doesn't want her to do something dangerous. So he's interrupting her, right? Think of foil characters that just roadblocks, okay? Are roadblocks permanent? No, but they do stop you in your tracks, right? So that would be how Beat. Yes.
But there is always a way to get around it, right?
Yeah, but it's still, no matter what, it happened, right? He still interrupted her. Like Melody's not Melody's not gonna listen to him and just keep walking. Okay, she's gonna think about it. She's gonna pause for a bit. Okay, so that's the point of the foil character, and that was our foil character, Pete. Okay, and then we have Trouble and Bass. Okay, they provide stability in the changing world. Why? Because they're static characters, right? No matter what, Trouble will always be the plump, fat, music salesman. And then Bass will always be the bartender, just with the deep, resonating voice. Okay. And yeah, Fiddle as a joke character ensures there's never a dull moment. Yeah, he's always playing his silly little songs on his violin. Okay. So this would be the character creation. Okay. This is just the basics of creating the characters. Okay. Like this is like stage 1 of brainstorming. Right. So for you guys, we need to move on to something that we call characterization. Okay. And sorry, was it this one? Nope, it was this one. Wait, no, it's this one. Okay. So we're going to briefly go into characterization here, okay? Because there's not too much to go about it, okay? Characterization is, so this is how you make your characters. Not necessarily. It's to make them 3D, okay? Like 3-dimensional. So if I make a character and I just call him Liam, that's all. He's just a person, right? There's nothing more about him. Now, if I said what he looked like, a handsome young lad with black hair, all right, then now he's like 1.5 dimensional, like 1.5 dimensional, right? Okay, at least I know what he looks like a little bit, right? And then next, I would say, okay, he's a very nice and honest person who likes to help old ladies cross the street. Okay, now he's like 2-dimensional, right? He's got something more to him. And now, once you add another layer, you would say he wants to be the greatest ping pong player of all time, right? He's gonna try and qualify for the world championships in this spring and try to win against this undefeated champion for 10 years. Okay. Now this character has not only what he looks like, the kind of person he is, his goals now too. Okay. Now he's sort of like popping out of the page. Okay. And that's what characterization is. Okay. So you start by making your character, giving them a bunch of things that talk about them, okay? And you have to give them character traits, okay? So can anybody give me some examples of character traits? Let's go with Martin. So you said mean and young?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those would be character traits, okay? So for character traits, right? Character traits, you want to make them a little more in-depth than this, okay? So let me find my list of adjectives and I'll give it over to you guys, right? You want to be able to use a bunch of sophisticated words, okay? So let me just ask you guys a hypothetical question. Like this, there's no, sorry, it's a rhetorical question. So rhetorical questions don't have like I'm not expecting an answer from you guys. You guys should just know it, okay? If I were to say somebody is funny, right, as my character, or if I said my character is charismatic, which word, sounds better to the reader, right? Charismatic, right? Like no contest, charismatic sounds better to the reader. So you want to stay away from simple words, okay? So Martin, was trying his best there, okay? He has mean and he is young, but there are more sophisticated versions of those words, okay? And over here, we have a long list of words that can really, go a long way in describing a character. And not just characters, right? If you guys ever, want to get into, really, good universities or good private schools, you need to be able to, talk about yourself to other people, right? So you need to choose from, a right list of words. So over here, we have the word ambitious, okay? So ambitious means having a strong desire for success or achievement. Everybody understand what ambitious means?
Yep.
Yeah. So ambitious is like somebody who really has some goals that they're not going to give up on, okay? And they're big goals. They're goals that don't make sense for them to have, right? So let's say if last year I got second place, in an arm wrestling competition, okay? Then me wanting to get first place the year after, it's not very ambitious, right? I already got second. That means if I tried a little harder and that guy got a little unlucky, I could probably win, right? So ambitious would be like if I've never done an arm wrestling competition before in my life, all of a sudden, boom, I'm winning next year. Okay, then that's ambitious, right? Maybe a little too ambitious, right? And then we have, the word responsible. Everybody should know what the word responsible is. We have the word respectful here, right? We have curious, dependable, enthusiastic, self-disciplined. What you want to do, right? The whole point of me showing you guys this list is for you guys to be able to use more complicated words, okay? So instead of using the word, okay, so tenacious, okay, the word tenacious would be a good replacement for the way you say, somebody who doesn't give up, okay? You would just say tenacious, okay? I think this word is super cool, So if you said your character was tenacious, the person reading would be like, wow, cool language, okay? Also, the word optimistic, okay? A lot of people like to use the word happy or positive. They're a little simple, okay? They're a little too simple. You should want to use more complicated words. Okay, so optimistic, hopeful, and confident about the future. Doesn't that remind you of some other words? Happy and positive, right? But this word is much longer and it actually gets the point across better, okay? So these are essentially synonyms for the more simple words, okay? We also have courteous. Courteous, so a lot of people like to use the word, nice or kind, polite. Courteous would be a better word, okay? Courteous kind of covers all of those together, okay? And the word meticulous, this would be an example of another, good use of, strong vocabulary. The word meticulous is talking about somebody who is very careful, okay? So if you're a painter and just changing one little color will make you feel bad about your painting, you would be described as meticulous, okay, instead of careful. And the last word I really wanted to show you guys was, the word charismatic, okay? So extremely charming, so much so that you inspire loyalty and respect in others, okay? So the word charismatic, people like to say that they're funny or they're social, okay? Charismatic kind of covers all of that, okay? Somebody who has charisma, somebody who can get people to listen to them, that person, is funny, is social, is entertaining, is extroverted. He's all of those words. He or she is all those words put together, okay? So in the future, or I guess later today, I can post this adjective list for you guys to look at. You guys can always look back at it. So if you're ever creating your characters, it'd be nice to, use some words. And, this is only around like 50 or 60 words. Okay,
Ooh.
there's thousands of words in the English language. Okay, so these are just some of my best picks. Okay, these are some of the words I use the most. All right, so let's go back to characterization. Okay, so what we had there was direct characterization, which is using adjectives. Okay, you're just using specific words to describe, characters, right? So let's do a few more direct characterizations with everybody, just to make sure we're on the same track. So, Kaden, can you give me an example of, a character trait, so an adjective that could describe a character? These are some really good examples of indirect characterizations from those. Okay, so in high school, you're probably going to read the book The Great Gatsby. Okay, it's not a very fun book because it's very old. It's old English, right? Old English is the hardest English by far. Okay, so an example here is the word humble. Okay, so you guys don't really know who Jay is, but Jay is one of the main characters of Gatsby. Okay, so someone who doesn't see their own worth or achievements as superior, right? This is something not necessarily hopeless, just somebody who doesn't really, they don't show off, right? They just think they're fifth. So if we rated people from 0 to 100, that person sees himself as like a 49, not even 50. Okay. So next we have Samwise Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings. You guys might know Lord of the Rings, maybe not. And he's always downplaying his heroism. So the word imperious, okay? Imperious is someone who's denominating and expects obedience. Okay. So what that really means is parents are sort of like imperious. Okay. So somebody who's imperious is somebody who does things for you, right? Makes you feel good, but in return, they expect you to listen to them. Okay. That'd be somebody who's imperious. So even if your dad, saved you from, a pack of wild animals, he just says, don't worry about it, son, but you have to listen to me. Okay. That would be an example of someone who's imperious. All right. Next. So we have the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland with her off the heads command. Okay. So she is an example of someone who's jealous. Okay. She's someone who just completely envies someone else. Okay. Not really too much to go on there. Okay. But these are, all from stories that you might cover, most likely will cover sooner or later in your lives. Okay. And even them, right? Even the end of these sort of sentences, they're indirect characterizations. So almost everything related to a character is going to talk about their character in some way. Okay. So by the end, if you want to do a lesson like that, read like a 400-page book, follow the main character, and then write down every little character trait that you see, from the indirect characterizations. You might get a few hundred or a few thousand of them. Okay. That's a very complex character, right? So I know I only made you guys choose 3 or 4 character traits, but a good character has probably a few hundred good character traits. Okay, that all makes sense with them. Okay, so next we can move on to what we're going to do is, I've already written this for you guys. So what I have here is kind of developing the character, okay? Developing characters for a story. And we're not only going to talk about characters today, right? We're going to move on to settings, plot twists, and dialogue, okay? So I want you guys to eventually do this, right? What you guys should be doing is create your own characters, and this is how you should break them down, okay? This is how you should, in great detail, break down the characters, okay? You can have this in your head, or you can write it down, but at the end, you need to put it together, okay? So I'll show you later. So we start with the character Ella, okay? So I start with physical description, so what she looks like. So let me zoom in a little more. She's in her mid-20s, okay? So she's fairly young. She has long, wavy auburn hair, right? Often tied in a loose bun, so her hair is up. She has green eyes, reminiscent of the ocean's depths, okay? She wears a silver locket, so she wears a pendant that's silver, and it's a gift from her grandma, okay? So over here, there's even a small little characterization here, a small indirect one here. Can you guys guess where it is? I mean, I'm kind of pointing at it right here. Okay, so she wears a silver locket, so it's a gift from her grandmother, right? So the word you can get here is the word sentimental. Do you guys know what sentimental means? The word sentimental means that she cares about small little things, okay? So, if your mom gave you a hat or your dad gave you a hat, even though your friends are all wearing this cool Toronto Raptors hats, because we live in Toronto and the Raptors are our team. you still wear the hat from your mom or your dad instead, right? Because you're sentimental like that. You care about, small little things. Okay. And next we move on to the personality traits. This is easy, right? So this is a direct characterization. Straight up, this is just direct characterization. So curious, brave, a bit skeptical, and highly intelligent. Okay, so she's curious, she's brave, skeptical, doesn't believe everything, so she's not too gullible. And as a result, she's really smart because of that. Okay, she's intelligent. Next, every character needs a background. Okay, so she grew up in a bustling city. Bustling just means busy. Okay, so holds a degree in history. Lost her parents at a young age, so she was raised by her grandmother Agnes. Okay. Now her motivation. So this kind of talks about her goals. So she initially wants to understand her family's past and the tales of her grandmother told. But as she discovers more about Larkspur, so Larkspur is the city that she lives in. Okay, she yearns to find her place in the world and her connection to the town. Okay, so very, very not the most simple goal, right? In the story One Piece, Luffy wants to become king of the pirates, right? That's a very simple goal, right? But most stories don't have simple goals like that. Okay. So next we have an internal conflict, right? So she struggles with accepting the supernatural elements of Larkspur and the weight of responsibility if she's truly the next guardian. Okay. So this is sort of a fairy. I mean, obviously this is a fairy tale. And why is this a fairy tale? Because of the word supernatural. Okay. So supernatural refers to anything that is not normal, anything that's super from the natural. So what is natural? Humans being able to walk, eat, breathe, sleep, and all that, right? Something that's supernatural would be being able to talk to ghosts, right? Being able to shoot, webs out of your hand, right? Being able to spit fire, all these things, all right? Those are supernatural. Okay. And then the development. Okay. You don't have to talk about the development, but you should think about how you want to develop the character, right? Because the character can't be the same person from when they started to the end, right? There's no way. The person has to have grown a little bit. Okay. So for me, I thought over the story, Ella would grow from a skeptic to a believer and learns the value of tradition and finds a sense of belonging in Larkspur. Okay. So usually what can change for a character, this is important, is one of their personality traits. Okay. So maybe they start off as very negative. Okay. They just hate everybody and they hate everything in the world. And maybe they, through the experiences, maybe they meet a bunch of kind people that help them out when when the character is, very sad. And then by the end, something even bigger happens right at the end. And then they become just like a really nice person to be around after. Okay. So you always want to change one of these by the end, and you always want to learn a lesson. Okay, these are the two most important things. They want to change and they need to learn a lesson. Okay, either the character learns the lesson or the reader learns the lesson through the story.